They expect silence to mean defeat. They think your calm is a sign you've surrendered. But real silence isn't emptiness, it's control. It's the invisible shift that happens when you stop trying to be understood and start understanding yourself. You've noticed how they pull back just to see if you'll chase. How they test your reactions, waiting for the message, the apology, the explanation. They feed on your noise because your noise made them feel important. But when you go quiet, really quiet, something terrifying happens to them. The mirror turns. They're left with their own echo. At first, they convince themselves it's nothing, that your silence is temporary. That soon you'll break, as always. But this time, you don't. You've learned the art of stillness. You don't beg, you don't explain. You don't try to prove your worth through words. You let silence do the talking. And silence, when mastered, is louder than anything they can say. That's the power of Stoicism, not coldness, but precision. The discipline to choose peace over reaction, dignity over validation. Every time you stay quiet, you reclaim a piece of yourself that used to belong to their approval. You're not punishing them. You're protecting your mind. You're showing that control doesn't come from dominance, but from composure. They wanted chaos. You gave them calm. They wanted explanation. You gave them distance. They wanted to win. You stepped out of the game. That's what breaks them. Not your absence, but your evolution. Because what they can't manipulate anymore, they start to miss. And that regret, silent and unseen, is the cost of underestimating your strength. The truth is, Stoicism isn't about ignoring emotion. It's about mastering it. It's learning to stand where you used to fall, to breathe where you used to break. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on their reply, their attention, or their regret. You stop living in reaction to their moves and start living in alignment with your own values. They'll never admit it, but they feel the shift. They scroll through your silence, trying to decode it, wondering what you're thinking, if you've moved on, if someone else has taken the place they thought was theirs. But that's not your concern anymore. Your silence isn't revenge, it's transformation. It's not about winning them back. It's about never losing yourself again. Because that's the paradox of silence. It hurts the ones who played with it. It exposes every illusion they hid behind: control, superiority, detachment. They wanted you reactive because a calm version of you is powerful beyond measure. A version that doesn't seek attention becomes magnetic. A version that doesn't fight becomes unforgettable. So when they think you've disappeared, you've only ascended. You've become what Stoicism truly teaches: stillness with purpose. You stopped responding to prove a point and started living to protect your peace. And the longer you stay there, the clearer it becomes. Silence doesn't end connection, it ends illusion. If this message speaks to you, if you're walking that quiet path of control, strength, and calm, know that this voice exists to remind you of your worth when the noise around you fades. If you'd like to support this space and keep these reflections alive, you can click the Super Thanks button below and contribute any amount you feel inspired to give. Not out of pity, but as a gesture of respect to the art of silence, to the discipline of peace, to the strength it takes to stay still when chaos tempts you to react. Because in the end, silence is not the absence of words. It's the presence of mastery. And the moment you learn to speak it, fluently, confidently, without apology, you'll never chase noise again. You think they've finally found peace. That quiet stare, the steady voice, the perfect calm. Everything about them says they've moved on. But what you see is only the mask. Beneath it, a storm is brewing they'll never admit to. Strategic silence doesn't scream. It shifts the balance of power. To the outside world, nothing seems to happen. No calls, no messages, no signs of life. Yet in their mind, an invisible film plays on loop. They scroll through screens, waiting for something they'll never admit they're waiting for. Their stoicism is a performance, not peace. Beneath it lies fear, control, and the ghost of regret. At first, it was you who couldn't stand the quiet. You wanted answers, clarity, a chance to talk. They looked composed, confident, untouchable. But silence, when used as a weapon, doesn't calm, it exposes. It shows who's truly in control and who's only pretending. The moment you stop reaching out, they feel it. They'll never say it, but the absence of your voice shakes them. What looks like emotional control is actually a slow-motion collapse of the ego. They check their phone and find nothing, and that emptiness starts to speak. The power of absence isn't about missing someone. It's about presence through withdrawal. It lingers, it weighs, it leaves traces in their so-called Stoic mind. Each unanswered day becomes a mirror reflecting their own game back at them. They wanted distance to feel in control, but your strategic silence unsettles them, because now the game no longer plays by their rules. Inside them, two forces collide. One demands distance, the other begs for reassurance. Coldness gives them safety, but the psychology of regret whispers, what if they never come back? That thought finds them at night, when the world is still and the quiet turns into noise. You see no reaction, but it's there. Your absence reaches where words never could. They reopen old chats, reread the same messages, pages of a book they themselves tore apart. Silence works. It cracks the illusion of emotional control. They said they needed space, now they have it, and realize that space tastes like loneliness. Their mental discipline doesn't shatter all at once. It erodes slowly during dinner, when they see a picture, when they remember your absence. Where they once tried to shrink you, your absence now fills the room. And you still think they're in control, that the calm response means strength. But you don't see the internal war, the psychological game that turned on them. Every time they don't reply, they lose another fragment of the power that once made them feel invincible. Their thoughts grow louder. Why haven't they texted? Did they forget me? They won't say it out loud, but those questions echo like guilt inside their mind. The silent game they thought they controlled begins to consume them. The effect of the silent treatment reverses. What was once dominance becomes defeat. Because strategic silence isn't running away. It's returning to yourself, a wordless transformation that forces the other to face their own reflection. True calm holds power, but not in their hands anymore. Your inaction becomes the message, your absence, the lesson. With every passing day, silence does its quiet work. They look for signs, traces of their relevance. They view your photos without clicking, read between the lines of what you didn't say. That's the true reversal of power, not in the words, but in the spaces between them. What seems like control is fear of loss. What looks like calm is panic behind the ego. But they'll never admit that. They repeat, I'm free, unaware that freedom without connection is just isolation. Silence as a weapon doesn't make noise, but it cuts deep. Between their coldness and your absence, a new reality is born. You might think they've won because they don't speak, but the one who truly has emotional control isn't the one who responds, it's the one who no longer needs to. That's real silent strength. All their lives they believed in their masks. But your calm breaks the pattern. They can't fight what refuses to fight back. Your stoic mindset is their hardest blow. While they still see silence as a tactic, you've turned it into art, the purest form of self-respect, the kind that doesn't seek approval. Within that stillness, an invisible revolution begins. They think you're doing nothing, but every second of silence is a decision, a quiet act of power. While they obsess over appearances, you've started mastering the unseen depth beneath them. And that's where the entire game shifts forever. Because in the end, strategic silence isn't a reaction, it's a declaration. Proof that you no longer need validation to feel complete. They don't notice it right away, but every hour of your absence cracks their facade a little more. The control of emotion is no longer theirs, it's yours. And it's right there, in the silence they can't decipher, that the real battle begins. The clash between someone who no longer needs to prove anything and someone suddenly forced to face everything they've spent years suppressing. The fight between calm and chaos, between absence and addiction, between you and them. From the beginning, there was never balance. One withdrew, the other chased. One asked for space, the other filled it with hope. That's how psychological games of control are born, not from connection but imbalance. You were always the stabilizing force, the one that grounded the chaos. They built walls, you built bridges. They went quiet, you tried to explain. They tested, you reacted. That's how cold personalities create comfort, by making others fear silence. Silence dominates only until you stop fearing it. But behind that false strength lies a deception. The ones who seem unaffected don't live in peace. They live in control. Their calm isn't serenity, it's escape. They avoid depth because depth demands vulnerability. And every time you speak, you allow them to keep hiding. You confirm that you'll keep chasing while they keep retreating. Their mind runs on an invisible contract. They pull away, you come closer. You believe you're acting out of love. They believe they're maintaining power. That's not a relationship. It's a script. An exchange where you offer energy and they return tension. And in that cycle of detachment that never truly frees, you slowly lose yourself until you stop speaking. And what they never expected happens. The contract breaks. The game reverses. Strategic silence becomes the first crack in their system. You take away the one thing they depended on. Your reaction. Without it, they lose direction. They feel the power shift but can't understand it. In their mind, a familiar thought runs. They'll text and like always. But this time, nothing comes. No messages, no explanations. And that nothing hits harder than any word could. Because for the first time, they understand what emotional distance really means. Not protection, but reflection. The effect of silence now cuts both ways. It used to drain you. Now it dismantles their facade. They trained you to respond to their absence, but they were never prepared to endure the power of an absence that no longer belongs to them. Here lies the core truth. They wanted control, but control only exists as long as you keep playing. When you choose silence, the game collapses. Your stoic calm forces them to listen, and what they hear unsettles them. They begin to realize that silence loses its power once it stops hurting you, that psychological games die the moment you refuse to play. They start to feel the emptiness they created, and suddenly your silence doesn't look like weakness. It becomes the loudest message they've ever received. All the power they thought they had begins to crumble, because what they sought, control, turns against them. Their supposed self-mastery becomes anxiety. Their stoic composure turns into doubt. You didn't break the rules. You simply stopped obeying them. And that's where true transformation begins. In the moment you stop doing, everything inside them starts trembling. Because strategic silence isn't an ending. It's a new language. One they don't understand but can no longer ignore. Then comes the quiet exhaustion. No drama, no tears, no long explanations. Just a single decision that whispers, enough. That's the turning point. You stop explaining, stop chasing, stop justifying. Silence doesn't come from words. It's born from self-respect. And that decision changes everything. It's the moment you detach from their mental game. You realize that for years, you responded to their coldness just to fill your own emptiness. Now you leave them there, trapped in their fake calm, in their illusion of control. And that's exactly when they lose it. Because silence as a weapon only works when it provokes reaction. Once you stop reacting, the system shuts down. They wait for your emotion, your signal, your attempt to reconnect. But this time there's nothing. No messages, no weakness. Only self-control. That calm throws them off balance. They can feel the silence working, and only now it's working against them. Their mind starts dissecting everything. What does this mean? Are they angry? Is there someone else? Their thoughts grow loud. Their ego starts to crack. Ego collapse never comes with noise. It arrives quietly, in thoughts that won't stop in the dark when they're finally alone. And you still feel that old pull to explain, to make things clear. The habit whispers, text them, make it easy again. But you take a breath. You've learned where real power lives, in mastering your reactions. You stay silent. Not from pride, but from clarity. That clarity is power, silent power. It's the reward of a mind trained through pain. You've learned that calm isn't surrender, it's dominance. Stoic serenity isn't indifference, it's emotional maturity. You do nothing, and somehow that changes everything. Because while they're watching you, you've started watching yourself. You notice the urge to act slowly fading. You feel the strength of absence settling within. You no longer need a response to be at peace. That's the real detachment strategy. Your silence begins to carry weight. It's no longer empty. It's a boundary. A wordless presence that doesn't explain itself. They feel it, they test it. Maybe a message, a casual, "Hey, how are you?" You reply, if you reply at all, with a Stoic mind, brief, neutral, unshaken, cold on the surface, calm underneath. That's the difference. They use silence to manipulate. You use it to heal. Your calm isn't a game, it's transformation, a quiet revenge without hate, a power shift wrapped in softness but final in its effect. Hour by hour, something shifts inside them. They can sense they're no longer the center of your world. You've stopped orbiting them. Your strategic silence has turned into inner strength, and now they feel like guests in a story that no longer belongs to them. That's when they truly start missing you, not because you left them, but because you changed. Nothing shakes a controlling ego more than someone who finds peace and stays there. At first it feels strange, the phone in your hand, your fingers twitching to type. You want to explain, to clear things up, to end the silence, like before. But this time something's different. You stop, you breathe, you do nothing, and that nothing becomes transformation. Strategic silence doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from exhaustion, the quiet fatigue of always being the one holding the bridge together. You finally understand that words no longer heal, that every "I understand" was just another way of keeping someone who didn't want to stay. So you go silent, not to punish him but to free yourself. The first days are chaos. You're not fighting them, you're fighting yourself. The habit to react, to explain, to wait. Silence isn't an emotional tactic, it's training. Every moment you resist is a victory over your need to be needed. As you hold your calm, the invisible dynamic begins to shift. They feel it. The one who used to control now loses control. The power of absence shakes them. They check your profile, your last activity, your posts. Nothing. No signal, no reaction. Your calm becomes their unease. Then come the little psychological games. A random like on an old photo. A cryptic story. A casual, "Hey." They call it kindness. But it's a test. A way to measure if your silence is strength or just wounded pride. You see the message. Your heart skips for a second. A part of you wants to respond, but you remember emotional control means mastery over impulse. You exhale. You don't reply. You let silence do its work. Because silence always works, but only if you're strong enough to hold it. They grow restless, searching for the old patterns. Before you were predictable. They pulled away. You chased. Now you stay quiet, and they lose their map. The control they relied on melts inside the very silence they created. Outwardly, they still perform calm. Straight posture, cold eyes, steady voice. But inside, chaos grows. The fake composure turns into anxiety. The strength they show becomes filled with doubt. Your silence becomes a mirror, showing just how hollow their confidence was without your energy. With time, even your body adapts to silence. You open your phone, see their message, and feel nothing. No anxiety, no longing, no weight, just clarity. That is the essence of silent power, when what once controlled you no longer has any hold at all. Your silence changes the rules. It forces them to see you through new eyes. Before, one word from you was enough to soothe them. Now you are the calm they can't decode, and that disorients them. They sense something has shifted inside you. Inner strength, self-control, mental discipline. They start moving carefully, posting things to provoke you, telling friends they've moved on. But at night, when no one's watching, they open the chat they never deleted. They stare at your name. And in that quiet moment, their ego begins to crumble. Not suddenly, but slowly, silently, inevitably. The power of silence has reversed. It used to be their weapon. Now it's your mirror. They start to feel what you once felt. The heaviness of emptiness, the power of absence. The image of superiority cracks. The emotional distance they used to wear as armor becomes the reminder of how weak they truly are. While they struggle, you find peace. The stoic calm they pretended to have has become real, in you. Your regret turns into clarity. You finally understand this was never about punishing them. It was about reclaiming yourself. You realize detachment isn't coldness, it's control. You become the center of your own energy again. No explanations, no begging, no chasing. Just silence. Silence that carries weight, direction, and meaning. Your quiet presence grows. It becomes impossible to ignore. They feel it even from far away. You've stopped feeding the game, and that's why the game has ended. Your absence has become power. You are no longer the one who chases. That chapter is closed. And while they wonder if you'll ever return, you already know the truth. You never left. You just came back to yourself, to your center, to your peace. That is the real essence of strategic silence. Not to wound, but to free. Because nothing is stronger than someone who can stay silent without needing to prove anything. Eventually, when they see you're not responding, the next phase begins. The tests. They can't tell if they've lost you or if you're just pretending. Their ego can't handle uncertainty, so they probe, subtly, cautiously, like someone testing the water before jumping in. It starts small. A like on an old photo. A story too specific to be random. A light message. Hey, how are you? This reminded me of you. It seems casual, but it's calculated. It's not affection, it's control disguised as curiosity. They want to know if you're still in their orbit, if the no contact rule still holds. Those tests aren't about love, they're about power dynamics. If you reply, even with an emoji, you confirm you're still available. Their ego relaxes. Your silence loses force. But this time you see through the script. You recognize the tactic behind the innocence. You know that every response feeds their need to dominate, so you stay silent. Maybe you read the message, but you don't type a thing. And in that moment, they understand. Silence works. What they once used as a weapon has become your shield. Every time they try to provoke you and get no reaction, a piece of their control breaks away. The distance that used to protect them now suffocates them. They lose clarity. They start reflecting, though they'll never admit it. Their ego disintegrates quietly, but relentlessly. With time, their gestures grow more deliberate. They post photos with someone new, quotes about freedom, subtle jabs meant to sting. They hope to make you react, to pull you back into the noise. But your strategic silence is stronger than their manipulation. Your stoic composure leaves them talking to the void. Every second you don't respond becomes a riddle they can't solve. Before, they could read you easily. Now they face a mirror that reflects nothing, and that emptiness awakens regret. Because silence forces reflection, and those who live on control fear nothing more than meeting themselves. They start noticing the patterns they once denied. Why aren't they texting? Did they really forget me? Do I still matter? Those questions grow louder, echoing inside their mind. They reopen old conversations, reading your words like clues to something they lost. And between the lines, they can feel the strength of your absence. You sense it all, the tests, the games, the signals, but you remain calm. That calm isn't indifference, it's self-mastery. You know true power isn't shown in how you respond, but in how you resist the urge to when every part of you wants to. Because those tests aren't random. They're their attempt to restore the old balance. Before, one cold text or a calculated pause was enough to make you chase. Not anymore. Now you stay silent, and that silence, more than any word, forces them to confront their limits. At first, they struggle to stay composed. They pretend nothing affects them, but soon silence grows heavy. They begin to feel your absence, not as punishment, but as emptiness. They realize they no longer control you. They're losing you. Strategic silence forces them to face the truth they avoided all along. They confused power with connection. Some respond with pride. They pull back even more, pretending they've moved on, repeating that they've forgotten you. But the mask cracks. The tension builds. At night, they grab their phone, open your profile, close it seconds later. They don't want to admit what they're thinking. Why does everything feel so empty without them? Some of them fall into panic. They start texting more, provoking, finding any excuse to break the ice. But you stay composed. You know that every impulsive reply would only feed the old pattern that once drained you. Your mental discipline is tested, and it holds. The tests don't stop because they've lost interest. They stop because they're exhausted. Not because you ignore them, but because you mirror them. In your silence, they're forced to face their own shadow, fear, insecurity, control. The effect of silence becomes a psychological boomerang. Every provocation you resist strengthens your presence. You don't grow colder, you grow clearer. You still feel, but now you choose exactly where your energy goes. That stoic calm marks the moment when silence stops being a tactic and becomes your way of life. Your silence is no longer a reaction. It's your identity. It sends a message that needs no words. I'm done playing your game, you don't define me. Your attention no longer decides my worth. And they feel it, and they hate it, because they were used to your return, your explanations, your constant search for peace. Now there are no open doors, only a living, grounded, unshakable silence. That's when their inner collapse begins. Their sense of power unravels. They realize they didn't lose you because you left. They lost you because you stopped needing them. And for their ego, that's worse than any goodbye. Their attempts fade. The messages slow down. And as the distance grows, you don't feel pain and you feel peace, because you understand that silence doesn't wound, it reveals. It shows who remains once you stop giving everything. While they wonder how you can stay so calm, you already know the truth. Strategic silence isn't a trick, it's evolution. It's the art of no longer responding to every echo from the past. The real test isn't how long you can stay silent. The real test is allowing silence to transform you while they still try to break it. Then one day, everything shifts. The silence that once scared you starts to heal you. You wake up, check your phone, and there's nothing. No anxiety, no fear, no waiting. Just air. For the first time, calm isn't a punishment. It's space. Strategic silence was the beginning. Now comes transformation. Your center moves. Before, everything revolved around them. Every emotion tied to their reactions. Now everything revolves around you, your peace, your strength, what you're building in the quiet. At first, it feels strange. There are moments when you still think you should do something, prove something. But each day, your discipline grows. You realize that mastery doesn't mean not feeling. It means choosing what to feed. And now you feed peace. From that choice, real stoic calm is born. You begin to see clearly what once imprisoned you. The need to be needed, the fear of being replaced, the illusion that love must always be earned. That clarity doesn't come with drama, it comes with distance. And you understand that emotional distance isn't absence, it's medicine. As you heal, they sense the shift. Your silence no longer provokes them, it confuses them. They feel your energy changing. You're kind but untouchable, calm but firm. They can feel your strength, but can't explain it. That's what's called silent presence, a power that asks for nothing but changes everything. You begin to grasp the true meaning of the power of absence. It doesn't work because you disappear. It works because you never return to where you once broke. You're still present, in your mind, your energy, your self-respect, but no longer available on command. That's emotional maturity, knowing that closeness only matters when it's chosen, not begged for. Every day your foundation grows stronger. You think less about them, more about yourself. You read more, sleep better, focus deeper. You surround yourself with people but no longer seek approval. That's the real shift of power, invisible yet undeniable. You live in silence but with strength. They begin to feel your absence differently now. Once your presence was their proof of being loved, even when they pulled away. Now silence forces them to face their own emptiness. The psychology of regret works slowly, but relentlessly. They no longer see your silence as pride, they see it as a mirror. Sometimes they try to reach out again. A message, an excuse, a soft, "How are you?" But you know it isn't sincerity. They're not seeking connection, they're seeking control. You remain calm. Maybe you reply politely but without energy, without warmth, without pleading, without need. Cold on the outside, clear on the inside, that's emotional control in action. You learn that calm isn't indifference, it's maturity. You're not distant because you stopped feeling. You're distant because you finally understand. The silence that was once a weapon has become healing. Your inner voice grows stronger. It whispers, "You have nothing to prove." That voice replaces the noise that once drove you to explain, to justify, to fight. You no longer struggle. You observe. You exist. And within that stillness lives authentic power. Sometimes memories resurface, their words, their looks, their promises. Once, those things would have broken you. Now you smile in silence. You recognize how far you've come. You understand that letting go doesn't mean forgetting them. It means releasing the version of yourself that needed to prove you were worthy of love. Silence is no longer a threat. It's balance. You use it not to dominate, but to preserve distance. You reply when you choose to, not when you feel compelled to. Your boundaries aren't walls. They're steady lines drawn from self-respect. Those around you notice the shift. Friends see you calmer. People listen more closely when you speak, because you speak softly. It's as if your silence has magnetic gravity. You attract without chasing. It's not strategy and it's consequence. They feel it too. They sense the tension. They wonder why you don't react the way you used to. Their tests lose power because there's nothing left to test. They realize you're not waiting, and that realization confronts them with the same insecurity that once haunted you. That's the reversal of power. The longer you dwell in silence, the more it becomes your language, not to manipulate, but to live in peace. You begin to respect yourself not because someone misses you, but because you've learned never to lose yourself again. At the end of this journey, nothing resonates louder than your calm. You don't seek validation, replies, or an audience. You've learned that Stoicism isn't withdrawal, it's presence. You are silent but not absent, serene but not weak. And while they may think you've forgotten them, you know you've transformed. What once broke you has taught you how to stand on your own. Because silence doesn't wound, it heals. And then comes the turning point. Not loud, not dramatic, but silent. They open their phone and find emptiness. No signal, no response, no trace. They scroll through memories as if old messages could revive what's gone. But silence doesn't cut, it dissolves. You're no longer there, not even within their control. They never understood that the power of absence isn't in distance, but in meaning. Stop feeding the game and their system collapses. Ego collapse doesn't arrive with tears. It arrives with realization. They can no longer reach you. They thought you'd come back, as always. They counted on your loyalty, your impulses, your emotions. But this time, they found only calm. And within that calm echoes their own emptiness. Strategic silence shows them what they never saw. They never had control, only habit. Their old psychological games no longer work. Your Stoic serenity has rewritten the rules. They try to provoke a story, a comment, a message, but their words fall into the void. You're no longer the screen for their ego's projection. You've become the mirror in which they lose themselves. Slowly, regret creeps in. Not the kind you confess, but the kind you feel. They remember the moments they tried to test you and lost. They wonder when exactly you stopped fighting. They realize too late that your silence wasn't a game. It was a choice, and choices, once made, can't be undone. For you, it's not victory, it's clarity. You witness the final stage of silence, the full inversion of power. You don't need answers to know what they feel. You can read it in their hesitation, their awkward gestures, their sudden curiosity about your life. But you remain still. That's the real blow. Not that they lost you, but that they have to watch you bloom without them. You found in silence what they lost inside it. What once looked like emotional distance has become self-control. What they called coldness was in truth healing. They feel they haven't just lost your presence. They've lost their meaning. You're no longer a chapter in their story. You're the lesson they never wanted to learn. That's the essence of silent revenge. You don't have to do anything. You simply stop being available. Your calm is your shield. Your Stoic mindset, your foundation. You don't talk about boundaries anymore. You are the boundary. And while they try to pull you back into the old patterns, you've already left the game. Because the real power shift isn't about winning over others. It's about mastering yourself. You've learned to walk away without guilt, to stay silent without freezing, to love without losing yourself. And that's how it ends. No noise, no drama, just a quiet exhale. They're left with questions. You're left with peace. Because the most powerful ending isn't the one that shouts, it's the one that's understood in silence. One day they'll realize the silence they mocked was the moment everything changed. What they thought was distance was discipline. What they called pride was healing. And what they believed was your weakness was, in truth, your rebirth. Because silence doesn't end stories, it rewrites them. It removes the noise, the lies, the manipulation, until only truth remains. And the truth is simple. Peace is power. Not the kind that controls others, but the kind that controls itself. You stopped explaining and they started wondering. You stopped chasing and they started searching. You stopped speaking, and suddenly, your silence filled every room they walked into. That's the irony. The quieter you became, the louder your absence grew. The person who once begged for clarity became the one who creates it. You no longer need closure because your calm is the closure. There's a scene, the phone on the table, screen still, notifications quiet. You used to stare at it, waiting for a sign. Now, it's just an object. The power it had over your emotions is gone. The peace you once begged for is now a part of you. That's what transformation looks like. Not grand, not loud, but steady. Like a tide that rises slowly until you realize the shore has changed forever. And they feel it. They scroll through your silence, trying to find the person they once controlled. But that person no longer exists. You've evolved into someone who doesn't react to noise. Someone who walks with calm certainty, who knows that Stoicism isn't about being untouched. It's about being unshaken. You don't fight for attention anymore because your energy has found a higher purpose. Yourself. That's the beauty of this evolution. It doesn't seek applause, it doesn't need witnesses. It's quiet, almost invisible, until one day someone who thought they knew you looks again and can't recognize the person standing in your place. The version of you they tried to break became the version that now stands in power. Because the ultimate revenge is peace, the ultimate comeback is growth, and the ultimate silence is presence. When you master yourself, you become untouchable. You stop chasing validation and start attracting respect. The same calm they once misunderstood now makes them question their own noise. The cycle of reaction ends, and in that ending, you finally breathe. This is what it means to embody Stoicism. Not an escape from emotion, but a higher form of it. You've turned the storm into strength, the distance into depth, the absence into authority. You've learned that the loudest voice isn't the one that shouts, but the one that chooses when to speak. So when they wonder why you don't respond, the answer is simple. You outgrew the conversation. The silence they fear is the space where you rebuilt yourself. And now every breath, every pause, every calm choice is a reminder. You don't need to be heard to have impact. You've already spoken by not speaking. If this message found you in that quiet phase, the one between letting go and becoming stronger, remember this: you're not alone. Thousands are walking this same path of silent transformation, choosing calm over chaos, self-respect over attention. If this journey resonates with you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel, share this message with someone who needs to remember their worth, and turn on notifications so this voice finds you when the world gets too loud. And if you feel gratitude for the peace this message brought, you can now support this space in your own way. Click the Super Thanks button below and contribute whatever amount feels right to you. Not as payment, but as participation. A small gesture to keep this movement of Stoic strength and quiet power alive. Because silence, when mastered, doesn't separate you from the world. It connects you to the deepest part of it. The part that doesn't need to win to feel whole. The part that knows peace is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of everything real.